So this is the second episode of the mentorship program. Today we would like to do something that builds upon our last episode of networking. We talked a lot about the importance of networking and building that a group of people around you who can support you. And today we are going to talk to Nikhil. He is somebody who I've known for a very long time. He came to Canada around the same time that I did, but I believe at the age of 14.
Yeah,
And I've seen him go to high school with me, go to university, excel at university, seen all the ups and downs. And currently, after going through all that, he is working at Palantir, which is a uh, company in the States which does a lot of consulting for governments and other large companies. So I'll just let Nikhil take it over from here and just explain a little bit more about himself.
sure. So I feel like Aghosh did give a pretty comprehensive biography of me where I came into Canada when I was 14. I did the IB program with him in high school in Scarborough, then went to university for computer science. Went all over the place for co-ops, banks, gaming companies, and then ended up at Palantir, where we do a lot of software development for government agencies and commercial agencies alike. Like the coolest example I can think of is Ferrari, which yeah, it's non-government, but it's very cool.
So that's awesome. So I'm just gonna get into the questions then. Can you share some key strategies or approaches that you used when you were navigating a career path, specifically like from the immigrant point of view that you are, like you came here, your parents didn't have the network, yet you still were able to build that network around you and get to the position you are right now. How did you navigate that whole process? And were there any specific milestones or decisions that significantly contributed to your success right now?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think the biggest contributor to my success has been my network, which is very on brand for this call, but I feel like in terms of specific strategies regarding how to get a good network, I think the biggest realization that I had was that if you're just very nice, exceedingly nice to everyone around you, then people will want to be nice back to you eventually. And it won't be everyone, it'll be a small subset, and most of the times, even them being nice won't like shoot you up in the next step of your career. So it's very easy to devalue how important it is to be nice to everyone and to just help everyone when you can. Never shy away from that. But I think those little things that I just did because I wanted to in the moment, because it made me feel good, they came back to help me in very interesting ways, very unexpected ways in the future. For instance, one of my friends was struggling with his co-op in a co-op of his. I was deep into data science at that moment, and he wasn't, so he was really struggling with the data science project. He mentioned it to me. I was like, well, I'll come over. And I came over and then I helped him out with his project end to end. And we never spoke about it again. And then 2 years later, I was struggling to get a co-op and he was just like, oh, you're struggling with a co-op? Here, I email a recruiter. And that's what a friendship is, yes. But this friend was not someone that I would interact with on a daily basis. I just was nice in the moment and it rewarded me unexpectedly 2 years down the line with a very small gesture from him as well. So I think that's the biggest strategy that I found to be effective.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up the whole thing about just being nice to people. Because I think one of the things that really helped me was just being like just being myself around people. Because at the end of the day, I noticed that people want to be around people that they can relate to. So, for example, I remember like when we would like be in university together, we would just go out there and just be university students and go play ping pong and stuff. And a
Yeah.
lot of the coolest connections I made was just doing stuff like that, where I was being myself, and I got an opportunity where I could talk to somebody who I wouldn't necessarily interact with on a daily basis. And I think that was also one of the things that really helped that as well. It was like, yes, you're being nice, but at the same time, you were being yourself. You were never trying to fake who you were ever.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not you're not being nice to get something, which is why I said it all of these things came unexpectedly. In fact, every single time I tried being nice to get something, like for example, every single time I went to a big networking event and tried to be nice to people way above me, I feel like they could kind of smell it. And they would still be very kind to me because I'm a young kid trying to make my way and they were in my position once. But it wasn't those connections that really give me the result. It was those random connections, like you said, where I was just like making jokes and playing ping pong. And I was like, hey, what's up, man? Let's play. And this random person was like, sure, let's play. And then 2 years down the line, something comes out of that. So definitely, yeah, helping everyone if you can, right? If you have the resources to help out, then help. Just being someone who gives back whenever you can, I think is a really good strategy.
See, yes, this is moving on to a question that is related to this. So I know there are many aspiring professionals out there, and everybody's interested in personal development. In high
Hmm.
school, it tends to be, oh, I want to do better in courses. You go to university, it becomes, oh, I want to do better uh, at this framework, or I want to get better at this specific technique. Um, is there a pivotal moment or experience in your career journey that led to significant personal growth? What did you learn from it, and how did like that pivotal moment impact your career trajectory?
Yeah, I think the answer I'm going to give is going to be a bit of a cop out because I feel like the people listening to this interview are not going to encounter it. And by that, I mean COVID-19 and isolation was really important for my personal growth because I got deprived of a lot of things that I considered essential for my day-to-day life. Examples of that are hanging out with friends, right? Examples of that are going out to restaurants, bars, going out in general. Uh, you can name it, like not being in university with a lot of friends, another example. And because I got deprived of a lot of these things, with the whole world like burning around, uh, sure, initially it was difficult, but what that resulted in was an opportunity for me to basically be an empty slate and then slowly select what I want to reintegrate back into my life. So specifically what I chose to do was I decided every day at 11 a.m. I'm going to run, and every day at 2 p.m. I'm going to do two lead code questions every day. And that those two things became very easy to put back into my schedule because I wasn't really doing anything else. And I think that that tactical knowledge that sometimes if you feel overwhelmed or if you don't know where the next direction is, instead of adding more stuff, it kind of makes sense to just remove everything and then reintroduce only the most important things. I think uh, that is something tactical that I've taken away and I still implement to this day. And it helps me repivot every single time I feel like my direction does not make sense or I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed.
Yeah, and I like the idea of subtracting instead of adding. Um, I think that even from an engineering point of view, when you're building, or I think in life, to be honest, when you're building something, it's like as humans, we always think about adding stuff, and you can end up with very bloated, whether it be software or dish or whatever it is, you end up with like a lot of bloatware that you don't necessarily need. And I think one of
Yeah,
the key things that made Apple and Steve Jobs so great was the fact that he knew when to remove things. And a lot of times, removing a lot of the distractions made the product, in this case, an iPhone or an iPod, significantly better than its competitors. And we can even see that with Microsoft, where I think that's another good example where they added a lot of stuff and they became this bloated company. And now that they're
yeah.
streamlining a lot of their processes and streamlining a lot of their new software products, it's becoming more and more usable. So I think that like the idea of like subtracting things and recognizing, okay, what is adding value to my uh, career or my personal growth and what is not, and then removing stuff that's not. I think that's a it's hard skill to master, but once you master it, it unlocks so many more doors.
Yeah, and a really important frame, like shift in frame of mind would be that just because something has a benefit to you does not mean it's good for you. And I know I sound almost contradictory, but what I mean by that is, for example, right, using Twitter has a benefit to you. Using Twitter has a benefit because you are interacting with all these people that could be in your space, right? If you're an engineer, that you could be interacting with all these engineers. If you're a filmmaker, for example, you could be interacting with all these film critics. So yes, using Twitter has a benefit for you. but it's not good for you if you're someone who's trying to get better at the actual art and not someone who's at the stage of trying to like market yourself or trying to expand, because almost always getting better comes before expansion. Getting better comes before full on marketing, right? So just because Twitter has the obvious benefit of make building those connections, now if you're wasting time trying to build those connections and sacrificing getting better, it's actually bad for you despite the benefits. So I think kind of evaluating, seeing past the obvious benefits of the infinite tools that we have, and seeing like only the three or four things that are actually the most important things for the phase that we are in currently, I think is definitely a very important tactical like mindset shift that I found to be effective. And it also makes sense from the Apple Microsoft analogy, where all those features that Steve Jobs got rid of, they had obvious benefits. But just the fact that they were bloatware because despite the benefits, they weren't contributing to the overall experience in the phase that they were supposed to. So definitely, yeah, makes sense. Those are good examples, by the way. A bit abstract because we're talking about personal development and then you went into design, but I think that's also the beauty of it.
Yeah, no, you just brought up the example of that because I remember like everybody was talking about Apple removing the headphone jack and stuff. I know this is way past
Mhm.
Steve Jobs, but they removed it. But because they removed it, they introduced another product that is objectively way better than any wired headphone I could ever own, which was the AirPods. It's way more
Mhm.
convenient, and that would never have happened if they didn't remove the headphone jack. I think so. It's also like removing, I think also allows you to open up new possibilities. Like if you don't have Twitter to go network with people, you're gonna try filling that hole with something else. And you can take the Twitter time with just talking to people in real life, which will help you build a lot better connections anyways. So even like I think subtraction also forces you to kind of go go explore a pathway that you haven't necessarily had the time to explore.
Exactly, right? Creativity usually comes out of like extreme constraints. So that definitely
Mhm.
makes sense.
So I want to uh, talk about one of the things that I personally know about you, which is the game engine. Uh,
Uh-huh.
so I know that you initially got rejected from Epic Games, and you locked yourself in a room and in 3 days built a game engine demo that you could present. Uh, can you tell me more about that?
Okay, yeah. So the story was I reached out to the recruiter being like, hey, I'm really interested in the job. Here's my resume. She looked at my resume and she sent it to the teams, and the team got back to me saying, hey, uh, decent resume, but you don't have C++ experience, and we're looking for C++ experience in particular. I'm sorry. And I was like, well, fair enough. I don't have C++ experience, right? So initially I was discouraged, and usually you take a rejection like that at face value because you don't want to keep on persisting when someone says, hey, not interested, because you feel very intrusive, right? You feel very imposing. But then I thought about what the rejection meant, and the rejection was purely a commentary on my skills, right? They said I don't have enough C++. So if I just kept saying, hey, please accept me, I really need the job, yada, 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 their criticism would still be true of me not having enough C++ skills. I just had to get to a point where that criticism was not true anymore. And the obvious way to do that was to build a game engine in C++. Because then if I have a game engine in my resume, well, they can't say, sorry, you don't have C++ skills. Maybe they would say something like, hey, we're full. And in that case, I would just like calm down and step back. But I was just like, well, if I can disprove their criticism, then why not just do it? And that was like a little stupid idea I had, or like not stupid, but a little like random idea that I had at night. And I have like, I think everyone has like thousands of those little ideas of like, what if I just did this? And we usually don't listen to it. But this time I was like, well, why not just try listening to it, see what happens. So I just did it. I sent it, and they were like, no one's ever done this. What the hell? Yeah, we'll do an interview. And from then on, the process got streamlined very well, and I ended up getting the job.
Yeah, and yeah, so I remember then that was like 3 days locked in your room, did nothing else except code.
Yeah,
And
it was rough.
probably one of the top moments of university for sure.
Yeah, definitely pro definitely like the hardest 3 moments, I think, but also the most rewarding and probably the funniest story.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, I also think that what you did is a really good example of one of the things that I do want to talk more about in the future, and that is the fact that we come from a hierarchical society,
Hmm.
uh, being discouraged as soon as somebody who is quote unquote higher up than you says no, and like almost submitting to that. I think that's something that really holds back students with the immigrant background, anybody from the immigrant background. I remember like through like when I was growing up in India, a lot of it was like, oh, if a teacher's yelling at you or something, you just put your head down, you listen, even if you know you did nothing wrong, you do that.
Hmm.
However, when you build the idea of submissiveness from like a childhood stage, it and you, it kind of hinders your growth as well. So I think that you doing this is a perfect example of like you saying that, okay, I'm not going to listen to somebody above me who told me that I don't have the right skill set and prove them wrong. And this like idea of like, just standing up to the authority and just like standing up for what you believe in and what you have to say and your own skills. I think that's a very important thing that uh I hope that more immigrant students could uh really focus on and learn to do themselves.
Yeah, and I think I agree, by the way, 100% I agree. Uh I feel like believing that you deserve success and believing that you deserve the thing that you want, as long as you put in the work needed for it, is a really helpful frame of mind. Because if you come in with the frame of mind that you don't deserve something, you're not very likely to put in the work for it, right? And I think that that believing you deserve something, believing yourself, standing up for yourself, I think that is better treated as a skill that gets better and better and better as you practice it more and more and more. Because I feel like a lot of us are, like you said, programmed in the reverse way, programmed in a way where if anyone with any authority says something and you don't have an immediate rebuttal to it, you just keep quiet and keep your head down and keep on with your day, right? But I feel like it's very helpful to start with very small steps to start questioning that, and then slowly build up to a point where you can respectfully question authority whenever you feel like you have good grounds to believe otherwise.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I think that's a really good point. Especially, I think you phrased it a lot better than I did. The whole idea of like questioning authority in a respectful way, because I'm not saying that you go to your boss or your teacher and start fighting them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he definitely phrased that a lot better than I did. Uh, this
I think I phrased
follow.
it because I've been on the far side as well, where I've been on the rebellious phase. I've been questioning authority at every opportunity I get, and I realize in that moment I didn't realize how ineffective it was. But I feel like looking back, I would do things very differently. I would try to, whenever I question authority, I would try to instead of questioning them for the sake of questioning them and for the sense of adrenaline that it brings, I would instead I would instead question the authority because of what I believe in and try to reach a middle ground, right? Because you'd be surprised how much people are willing to listen as long as you make your point
Mhm.
and in an elaborate way.
Yeah, I don't think I'm past the point of questioning for the sake of questioning still,
Yeah,
which is quite a little bit of hindrance to my career, but it's still fun, so hard to
it's
give
fun.
that up.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
it's
do you
very
want to
fun.
talk about yeah, I do want to talk about the transitioning from high school to university. The reason I'm like rushing a little bit is because I don't know how much recording time is left, so sorry about that.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's fine. Gotcha.
but that I'm transitioning from high school to university, or even to workplace. It's a fairly challenging uh thing to do. I know I definitely struggle with it. I know you did as well. Um,
Mhm.
what do you recommend somebody do when they're going through these massive transitions where the entire past 4 years of life is kind of flipped on its head, especially in like a career field that you're in?
Yeah, so to be fair, I'm kind of struggling with that right now as well. And I think it's going to be a struggle every single time. I think there's never going to be a point where it's a piece of cake to be uprooted out of your life and be put in an entirely new scenario, right? But I think, at least for me, so this is going to be different for everyone. And I think I just have a habit of ignoring the basics because in my brain, this is a fallacy, but my brain works this way. In my brain, I see the results of the basics because they're basics, so the results are very like the inputs and outputs are very clear. So I see the results of the basics, and then I think to myself, well, those results are not enough, so I'm just not gonna do them. So for instance, an example of that is eating very well, eating a healthy diet. I'm like, well, if I eat a healthy diet, I'll feel good, or like I won't, I'll feel good, or I'll be very fit, right? Well, I know the result of that, and that's not going to help my current situation because I want XYZ. So I'm just not going to do it. And I just end up not doing it for like 4 months because I've already like decided because of my deduction that this basic thing is not very helpful to me. And the reason I think that that is a fallacy is because ignoring one basic thing is all right, ignoring two maybe, but ignoring five or six, you're depriving yourself of the compound effect of everything that comes along with it. And an instance of that is, for example, basic number one, eating good food, right? So if I eat good food, I sleep well, or I feel very good, I have good mood, which means I'm more likely to be extroverted throughout the day. If I'm very likely to be like very energetic throughout the day, I'm more likely to be kind and giving. I'm more likely to be kind and giving. I make good connections that like just makes me a very happy person in general. Now that is something that is a result that I want. But initially, I would have never guessed that because human brains don't think in the compound, don't think about compounding effects. So I think I would always say take the basic advice, whatever little things are, and do them very well. And if it's the basic advice that we're looking for, then I think, yeah, eat very well, eat healthy, be very nice to people, put yourself out there, gloves, events, hobbies, whatever there is, and try to foster a connected group of friends around you that all like to do the same things that you do. The more connected it is, the closer you become as a unit throughout time. So I think, yeah, just do the basics consistently, but that advice is going to be very catered to people who think like me in the sense that they just ignore the basics repeatedly. So hopefully there's someone like that out there listening who for whom this clicks.
And I do want to go talk about one specific thing that you mentioned. It was the compounding growth. Uh,
Yeah.
one of the things that I was told to me and stuck with me was the whole idea of like, okay, if you get, even 0.5% or 0.1% better every single day, uh,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem like a lot, and it could just be like, oh, you spent an hour just reading something or an hour working on a skill. It it kind of grows exponentially, and it's hard for humans to, as you mentioned, think in the thinking exponentials or compounding, um, rather than and they're within to think linearly. But even if you spend like a little bit of time working on something, even one of your basics, every day you'll see a compounding effect of that. From like day one where you just started eating better to 30 days from then where your body is completely different, that effect compounds. And as you mentioned, uh there's other chaotic effects to that compound as well. So I think that the whole idea, I think a lot of people underestimate the idea of getting just a little bit better every single day, uh, and just letting that growth compound on itself.
Exactly. Compounding effect and chaos. I think both are like they're both phenomenons that human brains just like cannot grasp. So we often ignore these things. But I feel like just doing the basics well and then compounding and chaos theory will just take care of the rest.
Mhm. Yeah, and then it's gonna end off the interview with one question, which is what do the next 5 years look for you from a personal and career goal point of view?
Okay. Personal goal is to be able to run a marathon by the end of this year. And then we're gonna recalibrate. So every year, it's a new sense of goal in terms of fitness because it kind of depends how far I get. Uh, I've always been wanting to be a better friend, a better son, right? A better partner if needed. Just trying to be better to the people around me. So I think that's going to continue. Last year, I wanted to be someone who hosted a lot of events and who was at the center of a lot of activities around me because a complaint I had was, hey, nobody likes doing the stuff that I do. So flipping that on its head, I was like, well, why don't I do the stuff I do and invite people? And and it ended up working. So I want to do more of that as well. So that's personal goal, just to be good to the people around me and try to foster interest that I like, that hopefully someone else is out there who also likes and is underserved in that interest. In terms of professional goals, I want to be really good at uh, talking to someone and understanding what the core problem of their life is that I can solve using my skills. Because I think even if AI comes and automates all our skills away, I think that is a skill that cannot get automated away because that needs a sense of humane empathy that maybe computers can replicate. But if computers replicate that sense of empathy, then humans will then evolve to have like a different level of abstract thinking. So just developing that skill, I think, is gonna make make me more secure in this like rapidly changing technological environment of ours. I can't hear you, by the way. You might be muted.
Thank you for that. Yeah, the whole AI thing, it is a little bit scary even for me, and something that's fairly technical. Uh, but yeah, like it's about learning those side skills. They're pretty important. Uh, Even I think when we have our personal, like just we talk outside of like an environment like this, it always comes up like, oh, how can you build a lot of these soft skills that we end up missing, especially coming from a technical background. I think one of the things
Yeah,
that you kept mentioning was the biggest difference between somebody who goes to business school and somebody who goes to a technical degree is uh in a technical degree you're so in love with the skills you've learned that you always have the anxiety because you know that the skills can be automated one day. Whereas when you
yeah.
go through a business school, you have that people connection, uh, which is a little bit harder to replicate through AI, and
Mhm.
that can give you a sense of security. And I think that you kind of need both to make yourself as future proof as possible. And it just is a little bit easier to build those people skills because with technical skills, it is years of just rigorous training. Um, so I think that it like because like for people skills, you just have to put yourself out there, and it can be quite challenging. But once you start talking to people, once you start connecting with them, it just becomes easier and easier and easier each time.
Exactly, right? Like a frame of mind that I was thinking about for this would be say I want something done, right? And this person can do it. I love this person for their technical skills. Now a computer can do it. I'm like, well, I love the computer more because it's going to be cheaper, it's going to be faster, right? Whereas, say this one person really likes me, and because they really like me, I really like them. Now, say a computer really likes me, I don't like the computer as much. So that personal skill, that personal connection, it's much harder to replicate through computers unless the computer is fooling you and pretending to be a person, right? But I feel like if that starts happening, we have a whole different issue, the whole different set of problems. So that's why I
Yep.
feel like people's skills, like you said, are more resistant, are more resilient to being automated away, obviously. So that is something, yeah, that is something that I want to be able to focus on, that I want to be able to integrate more into my professional skill set.
Hi. Well, thank you for the chat today and doing this interview. So I think for people, for everybody who's listening to a recorded version of this, the goal has been to do these asynchronous interviews and topic videos. And the goal is that because we're doing it asynchronously, we can build a repository that individuals can go back to and always refresh their knowledge. And this is a better system of knowledge sharing rather than getting siloed. So thank you, Nikhil, for partaking in this. And uh, is there a platform that you would be open to for people to reach out to you?
Yeah, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so that's just your first name and last name on LinkedIn, and
Yeah,
all
so
right,
Nikhil
awesome.
Budathoki, Budathoki.
All right, awesome. So yeah, thank you again for uh doing this call, and yeah, appreciate you yeah sharing the things you've learned over the years, and just a little bit more of your insight.
Yeah, and appreciate you take compiling all this knowledge and disseminating that out there. Uh, hopefully this repository of information that you've cultivated helps a lot of people. Fingers, crossing my fingers for this initiative.
All right, awesome. Thanks so much. And uh we'll I'll share the future episodes as well as they come out to everybody through email. So if you want to sign up, just go through the sign up form, and you'll be added to the mailing list, and you can get access to these new episodes as they're being produced. So thank you, everybody, and have a good day.